Have you ever wondered what makes a garden so zen-like? To have that Far East beauty carefully sculpted with nature? In this video, we're gonna take a look at a few elements that it takes to make one. LIM IEOC, or Locale, as the locals call it, is one of 34 gardens and parks in the Macau region, and supposedly the most favorite one. The idea was conceived by a wealthy Chinese merchant in the 19th century, called Lo Chok-chi. Wanting a natural sanctuary to philosophize and entertain guests, he took up the service of Lau Kat-lok and Lei Tat-chun, contemporary painters at the time, to envision the perfect garden. In fact, it's the only garden in this region landscaped to emulate the classical parks of Suzhou and Hangzhou in China, which in turn were created by ancient Chinese intellectuals who desired to harmonize with nature whilst cultivating aestheticism. Chinese garden elements are unique in that they incorporate concepts of yin-yang, the complementary nature of the feminine and masculine. For example, the rocks, caves, light, and animals represent yang, the masculine energy. The water, empty dark spaces, and curves represent yin, the feminine energy. These opposing forces complement one another by existing together. The Taihu rocks have holes in them. The ponds have islets or rocky structures protruding from the water. Plants too are essential elements in that they symbolize human qualities. For example, pines represent endurance because they hold their leaves throughout the season. Bamboo is flexibility as they go back upright after being bent. But the star of the show is probably the lotus, an ancient Buddhist symbol and the Macau flag emblem. The lotus means purity, born in muddy water only to emerge and blossom clean and clear. No trademark infringement. This is the Bridge of Nine Curves. In Chinese garden architecture, it's made that way so one can enjoy a different viewpoint. But here, it's a more folkloric explanation. The sharp winding curves are for throwing evil spirits off the trail, since it's believed they can only move in a straight line. So there you go. If you think you're being followed by an annoying entity or your spouse, this is how you ditch him. This small park also incorporates architecture in the form of pagodas and pavilions. Originally, the pavilions were part of the owner's mansion, one being the family's private residential house rented out to become a school in 1938. The owner, who was politically active, is said to have accommodated Dr. Sun Yat-sen in this very home on a visit. The park wasn't always this spacious. At first, Lo Tuk-chi ordered it to be built on a stretch of low-lying muddy land in 1904. It was later expanded by his son, Lo Lim IEOC, finishing the construction in 1925. But he fell gravely ill, and although Western medicine was already being practiced in 1920s Macau, the family sought an old wives' tale remedy involving a dead chicken. He promptly died. His remains were kept in Chun Chon Tong Pavilion, which used to be a place for receiving visitors no less, but were later sent back to the family's ancestral home in the mainland. After the demise of the two heads of the family, and fast forward a few years, the Lo clan faced bankruptcy and had no choice but to abandon everything, until finally the government bought the land in 1973, restored it, and opened it to the public in December the following year, although the garden was smaller than it was before. From a private, luscious Eden to a public recreational sanctuary, nowadays you'll find all age groups enjoying all sorts of activities, be it exercise like Tai Chi, card games or Mahjong, singing and dancing, peaceful strolls, or just taking a breather and catching up with friends. In a small compacted city, places like these, however small, are appreciated by the locals and ingrained in their lifestyle.